Matt Bernier with the DRFBets race today for Wednesday, August the 8th. Race number 9 up at the Spa. 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Taking a look at the $100,000 quick call before we dive into the field. I'd encourage you to head on over to DRFBets. Take a look at the latest offer for new subscribers. All sorts of bonuses. You name it, you can get it. DRF.com/bet is the address. Let's take a look at the field that will be going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Of course, you can head over to the Race of the Day page on DRF.com, download free formulator past performances, and handicap along in post position order. The number one's a fascinating entrant in here for Jason Service. He is World of Trouble. World of Trouble was the favorite in the Woody Stephens, the favorite in the Tampa Bay Derby this year. Ran well in both of those spots, considering the distance in the Tampa Bay Derby probably too far for him, and the pace in the Woody Stephens was off the charts. Now, he's going to be trying turf for the first time, and at face value, maybe that's a little bit of a concern, but you look at the pedigree. Kentharo's about 17% with the first-time turf runners. I personally think that's what he does best as a sire, is throw turf sprinters. I think that's ultimately what those babies want to do. As far as the dam is concerned, meet expectations. This dam is a sibling to Bucaro. We know what Bucaro is capable of. Ran so well over at Royal Ascot. Ran well in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year. So there's plenty of turf in here. This horse himself is actually a sibling to Karate Jack, who was 1 for 2 on turf. So I don't think that's going to be any sort of an issue. The question becomes, how fast did they go, and does it take anything out of them? You also happen to have a positive formulator fact here for the trainer, Jason Service. Past 2 years, first-time turf sprint races, 9 for 31 with a 229 ROI. If he takes to the turf, which he should based on his pedigree, I think World of Trouble is very, very interesting. Number 2 is Majestic Dunhill, going out for George Weaver. One of a few horses that exit the My Frenchman down at Monmouth on July the 14th. The trip for this one was interesting to say the least. Warming up on the far turn, tried to bowl his way out, couldn't get through, angled down to the inside. That didn't seem like it was going to work. Angled back out to the outside and still was able to win by open lengths. I guess the knock here for this horse, a little bit light on buyers, but from a time form standpoint, actually fits quite well. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to sort of see. Again, those time form U.S. ratings and the buyers, they don't always sort of go uniform side by side. So there's a scenario where one fig might be a little bit more accurate than the others. One's a little bit higher than the others. If you believe the time form U.S. ratings, Majestic Dunhill fits well in here. If you believe the buyers, going to need to take a step forward here for George Weaver. We're going to take a look at the number 3 horse, Clouded Judgment, another one exiting that race down at Monmouth Park, the My Frenchman. The blinkers go on. Simply put, from a buyer's standpoint on turf, this horse has yet to do anything that makes him a contender in here. Perhaps the equipment change wakes this one up for Lacey Gaudette. Let's move on to the number 4 horse, A Different Style, goes out for John Service. The Factor, first-time turf runners, about 14.5%. The Factor pushes on all that sort of warfront pedigree. When you look at this horse, though, based on what he has done on the racetrack, only victories are essentially in gate-to-wire fashion. Not entirely convinced he has the speed to make the top. And it's probably a good segue into the Timeform US pace projector. You can see they have the 6 horse out on the front end. That's Shang Royal, followed by the 4, and then the 1 World of Trouble. Now look, World of Trouble has legitimate dirt speed. We'll find out if that translates to 5.5 furlongs on the turf. A Different Style, I'm not convinced he's going to be able to be forward enough in a run like this. And also, you just look at the raw numbers for John Service as far as first-time turf is concerned, turf sprints, and dirt to turf. They're really just not that strong. This one's a pass for me. The number 5 is Fig Jelly. Fig Jelly for Jason Service. Another one in here for Jason Service. I think this horse is very interesting just because I liked everything that happened in that N1X most recently at Belmont. 6 furlongs on the turf course, first time in a turf sprint. Really, the trip was perfect, but I don't want to fault him for that. He had a nice sort of stalking gear. He sat just off the pace, took over, and held off a late run from a couple of runners. Also nice to see that race has come back productive. The runner-up came back to earn an 84 in his next start, and the 6th place finisher was a next out winner with an 89. I think Fig Jelly is a primetime contender in the quick call on Wednesday. The number 6, Shang Royal, going out for Mike Maker. Most recently claimed out of a race that was washed off the turf. Javier takes the mount here. It's one thing to win by 11 on an off-the-turf race. It's another thing to do that against proper turf sprinters. I think the race that you want to use as the barometer for this horse to see if he fits in here is not that run on the off track up here at Saratoga. It's the run 2 starts back where he finished 3rd in behind a horse called Trigger Warning. Trigger Warning has gone on to do some good things in his next start coming out of that race, the Tom Ridge from Presque Isle. He earned a 92 buyer, and he has done some good things in graded stakes races. Shang Royal, I'm not sold on his abilities against these types on the turf, but at the end of the day, he is going to probably be a pace factor in this spot. The number 7 horse is Dirty, going out for Jeremiah Englehart, highest last out buyer in the field with a 91. The concern here, what has this horse been facing? I know that run 2 starts back at Belmont, that starter allowance. The runner-up Axtell was a next out winner with an 86. The third place finisher earned a 79. But that most recent start down at Laurel, he just didn't beat anything. So as impressive as it is to put 5 lengths on the field essentially in the final, let's call it 1/8 of a mile, the concern is he was on his left lead for that final 1/8, and that field has just come back poor. The 6th place finisher was the next out winner. It was on dirt, but only earned a 77 buyer, and the 3rd place finisher came back to earn a 44 in his next start. To me, Dirty, he can win, but at the price that he's likely to offer, considering the buyer speed figures that is sitting right there in front of you, I don't love him in this spot. Put it that way. I would use him as probably a backup in multi-race wagers, but I don't love him in here. The 8, like what I see. Another one exiting that My Frenchman, the runner-up here in behind Majestic Dunhill. To be frank, I much prefer Majestic Dunhill simply because I think he's going to have a tactical advantage. And like what I see, yeah, maybe he had to come from a little bit farther back, but in the grand scheme of things, I thought it was a pretty good trip. I think he's going to need to move up here in his 3rd start off the layoff. You do get John Velasquez, though, aboard in a spot like this. The number 9 is New Legend, a Korean bred, going out for Menifee. Menifee, first-time turf runners, only 6%. That most recent start broke the maiden on the poly track out at Arlington Park, so perhaps that translates, but at the end of the day, from a figure standpoint, this horse has gone out 6 times and has never byred anything greater than 70, going to need to up his game significantly if he's going to be competitive. The 10 Stolen Pistol for Joe Sharp. Joe Sharp off to a great start at the Saratoga meeting. Wouldn't be surprised if this one was competitive. The concern I have is how far back is this horse going to be throughout the early stages? If they don't go that fast early on, there's a scenario where Stolen Pistol will just have too much work to do at the end, and perhaps a minor award is the ceiling. It is worth noting the runner-up in the most recent start, though, from Belmont Park, came back and earned an 85 buyer. We go on to the number 11, Colton, Mississippi for Todd Pletcher. Turning back in distance, blinkers come off. Colton, Mississippi is a horse that it felt like he was going to be something when he was a 2-year-old, and he just hasn't really put it all together. Now you've got to start to wonder. The turn back in distance from 1 mile to 5.5, that's not an insignificant distance change. I just wonder at the end of the day, is he quite good enough? And where is he going to be positioned in this race? He had a little bit of tactical speed in those route races, but going shorter, he's probably going to have more work to do here. The last one we'll discuss is the number 12, Totally Boss for Rusty Arnold. This horse I thought was impressive visually winning at Indiana Grand most recently. That was in a non-winners of 1 other than only time that he's tried the turf thus far. My concern at the end of the day, he just didn't run all that fast. The 81 buyer checks out, but from a Timeform US standpoint, the 99, he's going to need to up that significantly if he's going to be competitive, and you've got to deal with that brutal outside post breaking from the number 12 hole. So that leads us in to my pick for this race, the 9th at Saratoga on Wednesday, the Wednesday DRFBets race of the day. I'm going to go with the number 2 horse, Majestic Dunhill, in here. I just think that this horse, from a buyer standpoint, I think the buyers don't tell the whole story. I think the trip in the most recent start was visually impressive, the fact that he was able to overcome all of that. And from a Timeform standpoint, he fits very, very well. He's competitive in here on those numbers. I think he takes a step forward. He's paired up those 80 buyers. I think there's a forward move here. Joe Bravo has the mount for George Weaver. I'm going to go 2, 1, 5, and 12 in this spot on Wednesday, the DRFBets race of the day from Saratoga. Again, head on over to drf.com/bet. You'll get all the latest as far as offers and bonuses are concerned with a new DRFBets account. drf.com/bet is the address. Scheduled post time for the quick call, the Wednesday DRFBets race of the day. Race number 9 up at the Spa is 5:40 Eastern. Best of luck.